Welcome to the 2024 Winter Classic Student Cluster Competition Studio Update Show. Now, here are your hosts, Dan Olds and Addison Snell.
Hello, Dan Olds here, and this is another edition of the 2024 Winter Classic Invitational Student Cluster Competition Studio Update Show, and I'm joined by the inimitable Henry Newman. How are you, Henry?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thank you for inviting me. This is great. I love when we can help younger people and get them through the process of getting into the workforce.
And you're here, I mean, mainly because I couldn't get anybody else, but also...
Meaning I was your last choice? I understand, Dan.
You know what, though? I'm not going to put it that way. But we have fun. And Henry goes way back in HPC. And like he just said, he's always wanted to expand the ranks and help younger folks get involved with it. Sue, Henry, you know what we're doing today?
I do.
Well, yeah, but it was a rhetorical question.
Oh, I'm literal, Dan.
We are revealing for the first time the results from the Oak Ridge competition module. And this is the third time they've done this. They did in 2022 a machine learning exercise, and then they did what I call their blast challenge, which was looking at the radius of a blast and figuring out what that looks like visually. And that was pretty cool. They always kind of push. They push the students a bit farther. And this is, in this competition, the first non-benchmark the workload that they've had.
It's a real application that has impacted all of us almost in the planet Earth.
Yeah. So you took a look at the training material. Can you tell us about it a bit?
I was blown away by the quality and depth and level that Oak Ridge provided to get everybody on the same page. The materials were some of the best training materials I've ever seen for something like this. It's very impressive the amount of time and effort Oak Ridge went into this. My hat's off to them. Every hat I own.
Yeah, I am always impressed with what they do and the amount of time they spend with the students. And of course, the system that they're using, which is Ascend, which is sort of the mini-me of Summit.
Right.
And that's a great experience.
Well, and the other thing that, Oak Ridge clearly wants to engage with the students and looking at, the future. These are the people that Oak Ridge will want to hire for the future, the ones that are successful on these kinds of codes. And we need more of this, and Oak Ridge is investing in themselves. That's what I appreciate.
They are. And let's talk about the basics of the challenge itself. They pushed the envelope again this time, and it's both topical and difficult. You tell us a little bit about it? Yeah.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, it's drug discovery and AI for a COVID drug. I mean, and how pertinent is that in the last couple of years of what they've been looking at, at Oak Ridge and in the open science community. So this is a real world problem that impacted everybody in the last few years and is impacting people even today. So again, my hat's off to Oak Ridge for picking this problem and how pertinent it is. And hopefully that the students got a good understanding of why this is a good example why HPC is critical to humanity.
Yes, it really, really is, as we know. So let's see what happened. And going back and looking at the last leaderboard, I'm putting it up on the screen to refresh everybody's memory. We've had 3 challenges. 300 points have been awarded, and it's very tight. It is very close. The Texas Tech Red Raiders are in front. Santa Cruz is less than 2 points behind them. The Channel Islands Dolphin team is less than 2 points behind Santa Cruz, and the Matadors are less than a point behind the Dolphins. In all, there are less than 4 points separating the top 4 teams and less than 10 points between the top 5. It really couldn't be any tighter. Most everybody is on the board now, which is great. It's very tight competition. And of course, we're learning a lot, which is what we're here for. So that's the old leaderboard. We're going to be updating that in the next couple of minutes. This was right out of the gate. This, as you said, Henry, this was a tough competition. Teams, we didn't see the big cluster of scores. This one was more stretched out, and it's not surprising to me that some teams just outright struggled with this.
Yeah, you would have to invest a significant amount of time if you did not have knowledge of doing problems like this and working on problems like this in your past, especially if you're new to it. But as I said, the training materials, in my opinion, leveled the playing field for everybody. So I think it was fair, and Oak Ridge, went out of their way to really, work on this and the training materials. And I'm sure they'd support anybody with questions and things like that.
Yes. And the thing is, I talked to a couple of teams afterwards, and they were, I don't want to say whining, but maybe a little about how tough it was. And I said, well, this isn't a benchmark. This is new, and it's a real application with real data sets. It's going to be harder. It's not widely documented. You can't just Google it up like you'd Google up how to optimize LinPack.
Exactly. But that's the whole point of why this is so important. It's real.
Yeah, exactly. This is absolutely real world. They're working with something they haven't worked with before on a system that they've never been on before. So hats off for trying it and getting it and doing as well as they did. So let's take a look at the middle of the pack, and you'll see that there is quite a bit more spread in the scores. From 62 for the high performance Dolphins of Channel Islands, 75 for the other Channel Islands team, kind of bookmarking them, and Santa Cruz, the Lobos, and the Red Raiders in between.
A lot of work went into getting those scores. I'm curious, though, about some of the people who haven't completed the work as of yet, and what happened. And maybe, that you should kind of do a post-mortem of what the issues and concerns were.
Yeah, I with a lot of these, it's a matter of time, because in the schools that we have, all of these kids have jobs too. They're not just full-time students plus other activities. So that makes a difference. Not an excuse, because others can do it, but they're also coming from some different levels of experience as well.
Right. And I'm sure that there's different levels of experience, the students and the advisors. So,
yes.
that's but I will, again, hats off to Oak Ridge with the quality of the training materials. That should have helped them make the playing field a lot more level.
Very good. So we've seen the top 7 now, right?
Yes.
Or 8. Let's take a look and add something to our view. There's Fayetteville State, who is a top team. They've slid a little bit, but not by much. There are two teams left. Ready to take a look? And it's going to play a role in the battle of the state of Texas and for the state of New Mexico.
Really?
Yes. Are you ready?
Ready.
Here we go. Look at that. Top two teams by a decent margin. The Matadors from Texas Tech and the Roadrunners from University of New Mexico, not too far from you.
No, we're not too far from me.
And this Roadrunners team, not a lot of competition experience, but they're very impressive. And the Matadors, 3 kids, just 3. But
and
very solid.
The Roadrunners, if they had just done better in HPCG, they would be in a lot better shape because they did very well.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they've done really well. They had a problem with HPCG, but that's that happens. And Fayetteville and the Red Raiders and like Santa Cruz, they scored well early, and that helped them out.
Right. But it's a pretty tight race with 2 left to go, AWS and Google. Do you know what the problems are there?
3.
They're going to be a surprise.
We'll talk about that in just a second. Let's take a look at how this is going to impact the leaderboard, the overall leaderboard. And just to refresh the memory from a couple of minutes ago, I'm flashing it up again. We see Red Raiders, Santa Cruz, Dolphins, Matadors, Fayetteville, Lobos, Roadrunners. Here's what it looks like now. And this is up to the mid-pack. And the big thing you see is that the Roadrunners have switched places with the Lobos and built a little bit of a lead.
Yep.
That's a big change. So congratulations to them. We've got everybody on the board now, which is fantastic. So let's take a look at what's happening up above. Here's the rest of the board. And this is really interesting. The Matadors are winning the battle for Texas, and not a big lead, but it's one of the biggest ones we've seen in those top slots, but still so tight.
17.7.
Yeah, it's very close. Fayetteville is holding steady at 3rd, but that was through their great performance on the earlier stuff. Santa Cruz holding in 4th. That's good. But we still have 300 points left. And the AWS module is starting today. And I just heard what it is, Relion.
Oh, nice.
Any challenges in that come to mind?
Not off the top of my head, Dan. It'll be a lot of it will depend on the test case and things like that. There's, don't know for sure.
Okay. So Henry, asking you about that was just sort of a dead end.
Pretty much, yeah.
Just pointing that out to the viewers.
Yeah, I mean, you could have given me the information ahead of time, Dan, but I didn't have it till just 30 seconds ago. So
I just found out myself. I sat in on their training session, which was good. So we've got AWS coming up. We have Google coming up after that, and then the interview. So there's 300 points outstanding, and this could change radically.
It could, but we'll have a pretty good idea after this week in AWS, because with 200 points to go, there'll be trends. But, where's spring break for all these schools? Were you able to get this all done next couple of weeks, Dan?
Well, spring break, I believe for most of them, it's happening during the off week. I go out and look at that and try and schedule an off week in there because of spring break. Not always successfully, because they're not all at the same time, but I do look at that pretty hard. And it's tough to have a competition module during a spring break week, of course.
Right.
So we will see how they do on AWS, and there's a lot more to come.
Always is. I love the Winter Classic.
I do too. Very near to my heart. Hopefully near to the hearts of you millions and millions of folks who will be seeing this. Right? Yeah. So tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we will be right back at you with more results. Team interviews are coming up next, more mentor interviews, and just more stuff. And thank you, Henry. Really appreciate the help.
You're welcome, Dan.
Thank you for watching this episode of the 2024 Winter Classic Invitational Studio Update Show. For all the latest news on the competition, check out our official media partner, HPC Wire. We're also on social media at the handles above. Give us a follow. We'd love it. And please visit our website at www.winterclassicinvitational.com.